Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mrs. here. Today I am back for another one of these kind of videos. Apparently you guys really liked the Shoujo Doji video and said that you enjoyed that style. It makes me happy, and I decided that, I should go back to making more explanatory style videos, which I have been doing for the last how many years on this channel. But I kind of slowed down on that because I used to think that there wasn't really a demand. Seeing my latest tool, which is of course DivineZ Explain, links description, as well as the Shoujo Doji video, I decided to start this series again and kind of do this a bit more often. Just a disclaimer, I will not be replacing I will not be replacing deck profiles on this channel with deck discussions or explanatory videos, because I still feel that deck profiles are needed for the people that want to actually learn more about the deck, picking it up rather than beating the deck. I think that's something that most of us can understand. And there's a reason why deck profiles have lasted for multiple card games for the last 20 plus years. So no, I will not be stopping deck profiles. They will still continue. No, I will not be stopping V deck profiles as well until something happens to them. But if not, I also do want to try and inculcate this explanatory style video into my channel upload schedule. So if you guys like this style of video, please continue to support them. It really means a lot to me. A lot of them, just like how I do deck profiles, I need to do testing, I need to do my own research, and I need to write my own scripts and pay people to do my thumbnails and all. So yeah, I would really appreciate it if you like and subscribe, share the video if you want to show people how else to beat Keter Pile. And last but not least, my channel membership is at the bottom. I'm also going to link my Night Rules Encyclopedia down below, because that's technically my other big venture for the year in terms of explanatory video style. So you can check that out as well. It also means a lot to me. Okay, now I want to talk about Keter Pile. And I think first of all, we have to start off with what the hell is Keter Pile. It's a very hard topic. A lot of people just hate this. This is definitely one of the most divisive topics online when it comes to Vanguard for some reason. And it got really bad, especially the week I did my Graham Graves deck profile. And then, Mcrafter 3000, you know him? Yeah, he went on Nexus at night to start bitching about how Rezio now is a generic. And now everyone piles on this topic and says, oh, generics are bad for the game. We can't play this game anymore. It's terrible. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. I don't know. I feel really sickened when I hear that, because very frankly, they're mixing two different issues together. I think generics are fine. I think generics are part of every game. You need to have generics to ensure that under-supported decks still have cards they can play rather than being dead-ass unplayable like Rotovisor. But at the same time, if every deck starts to look the same, I also think that's wrong. Second thing to note, Keter Pile, I know a lot of people have written about it online in articles, in videos, and it's gone on and on and on. But I think something that a lot of people don't actually know is that, there's two very different meanings to it. Keter has a lot of generics. So at first, a lot of people referred to Keter Pile as literally just stacking all the generics into a single deck. But what I actually mean by Keter Pile, and this is the meaning that I feel is what most people are referring to but don't know, are these three. Okay, so these three right here, this is what you call the order core of Keter. These cards, they work together. You normally play 4 Tefalt, 4 Selgaon, or the number of copies that are available in standard, and then you normally play 4 copies of Wisdom of the Beginning or Primordial Intelligence. And then there is a fourth member to this group. It's actually Obligator Dragon, but all Obligator Dragon does is ensure that you actually see this on turn 2 infinitely consistently, because it checks the whole deck for it. So I'm not going to be discussing Obligator Dragon. I don't think you need to learn how an Omni Search works. But okay, I may do that video in the future, okay? So don't worry. So this is what they actually mean by Keter Pile or Order Core. And I know this myself because I'm technically its inventor. I'm going to link it in the description below. I'm the first guy to play this in a deck at a tournament. It was for my DBT08 Majesty Lord Blaster. Yeah, so I was there on its first day. I was the first to start playing this stuff, and I know that it is really good and really bad. There are some pros and cons to this thing, and that's really why I have to talk about it. Later on, of course, we got Selgaon, who is, God's chosen soldier, and this guy is really he's weird. He's really good in some decks that completely break him, and then he's mid if you play him something like, I don't know, Modern Day Majesty or Blaster. Then you go, oh, I just lose them. And then of course it's Tayfault. Tayfault is the DBT11 cycle that works with orders. You should kind of be able to tell why this is a problem. There's a 2, you generally can just spawn this off on turn 2. But I'm gonna figure out and just explain more of, you know, this whole stuff. What exactly is order core? So to start with order core, I feel you obviously need to look at the order. So the order here is Wisdom of the Beginning. There are some people online who do actually play the other order. It is this one. This one is Warrior's Rest from DBT01. But Warrior's Rest is kind of the less high roll option, and it's the option you use more in the later stage of the game. So most people don't actually play this nowadays unless you see 1 or 2 off in Luar. They're more likely to play this when using order core as a whole. So Wisdom of the Beginning, like I said, because I am the first guy who started playing with this, it's a very simple card. You just play this with a count blast 1, draw 2, call 2 cards from your hand with the same grade or less as your Vanguard, and discard the rest if you can't. I can spend another 30 minutes talking about this guy because I have that much experience with it. Wisdom of the Beginning is just a speed reload card. It's just to help you turn 1 counterblast into a +1, because using the card costs you 1 advantage, and then if you draw 2 cards, you know, you spend 1, you get 2 cards. Technically, it's only a +1. Okay, so that is something about Wisdom Beginning, and again, it also does help to already have playable cards in your hand. I have situations before in real life, and this is very valid. If you do actually spend the draw 2 on a hand, and let's say for example your hand looks like this, right? And then I draw another 2, you have to call 2 of these cards no matter what. If not, you discard them, which, if you can tell just by looking at this hand, that's really bad, so you don't want to do that. And therefore, most sane people, when they actually recommend you to play this order core, the number 1 thing you want to have is always at least have 1 guy in your hand who is callable. Then if you draw a second guy, you can call them both, and it's going to help you a lot more than you think. So that is Wisdom of the Beginning. Again, it has its pros, it has its cons, but it is the main Kickstarter of this engine, because 2 of the cards that you can call in the early game are really broken. This one's Tayfault. Tayfault, the skill is, when called in the rearguard circle other than by a unique card's ability, you can Soul Blast 1. If you play an order this turn, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose 1 card from among them with the same grade or less as your Vanguard, call it to the rearguard circle, or if you choose an order card, you can add it to your hand. Now, Tayfault was meant for you to play in order heavy decks like Blonde Ezel, but now it's just blown out of proportion because it's literally a Twin Pulsive Dragon on a stick. If you know who Twin Pulsive is, good for you. So what happens is now you can play Wisdom Beginning, you can call Tayfault, and then you can Soul Blast 1, and then you can just call another guy. And then you also have the third call from, you know, Wisdom Beginning, because it calls 2, right? And then you call a third guy from Tayfault skill. And now you generally already have at least 3 columns looking like this. So let's say this is your Vanguard. No, let's say this is your Vanguard, right? You play Wisdom Beginning. You now have 1 10k here, 1 10k here, 1 13k booster there, and that generally is one of the best turn 2s you can already look at, because you're threatening for 10k here, 10k here with the drive check, and then you're threatening for 23k. So when you look at that, that is pretty devastating, and all you paid for realistically is just 1 counterblast. So do keep in mind that you did all of that with just 1 counterblast, which is insane. And then to, you know, really rub salt in the wounds, we also have Selgaon. Selgaon is a bigger problem when it comes to D series, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to talk about him for order core's sake. So Selgaon is the last and honorary member because he is someone that's also enabled by you playing an order this turn. But you don't need to play orders in a deck to use Selgaon, so that's why this definition is not very accurate, but just keep in mind, okay? When this unit boosts, if you have played an order this turn, or if you have more regards than your opponent, this unit gains 5,000 power. At the end of the turn, at the end of the battle, this unit boosted. Retire this unit, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, choose 1 from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest to the bottom. That's right, it is a 13k booster without a great restriction, and it automatically becomes a stronger Painkiller Angel. You look at the top 2 cards of your deck, 1 to hand, 1 to board deck. It's deck filtering as well. It's really insane how much they got away with this, and with these 3 together, you are starting to see a problem. This is how all the turn 2 Keter shenanigans start. They use this in so many decks now, decks that don't really have a game plan, and it's unfair because, generally speaking, you just need to put these 12 plus some obligated dragons inside, and your entire early game is now settled, right? It just seems really lazy of deck design. Like, at this point, you might as well just play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because you're literally playing the same off-engine and in-engine in a deck. How are we going to beat this order core for Keter Pile? Now, like I mentioned again, you needed 1 counterblast to achieve that, right? So now I'm gonna just teach you how to beat it. It's really simple. All you have to do is, I'm gonna give you a demonstration. So let's say, of course, because this is the DivineZ 04 channel, let's assume I'm on grade 2, right? Let's assume I'm on Blaster Blade, and my hand looks like this. I have 1 Default, I have 1 Wisdom at the beginning, I have 1 Selgaon, or maybe I don't even need that Selgaon, I just have a bunch of other cards in my hand. So for the sake of example, let's just say I have a whole different batch of trigger units here. I have a Regalis piece here, I've got a PG, I've got, let's say 1 other trigger here, right? So let's say moving into turn 2, sorry, my hand looks a bit like this, right? So let's just assume my hand looks like that. Alright, it's pretty okay. And let's say that, for the sake of example, let's just say Blaster Blade doesn't have a Counterblast skill, so I only have 1 face-up Counterblast in the damage zone right now. So I'm going to just shift the camera a bit. Okay, so let's say right now I play Wisdom at the beginning. By playing Wisdom at the beginning, I pay 1 Counterblast, and if I do, I get to draw 2 and then call 2, right? That's the effect of the order, so the order resolves. Now, so I'm going to automatically draw 2, so let's say I drew 1 Selgaon, and let's say for the sake of example, I draw another trigger. Okay, let's just say I'm doing really badly in this game, but not really, right? So now, judging from this hand, these are the 2 cards I automatically call. I would call Selgaon and I'll call Default. The rest of these cards here, for my hand, I can just keep them in my hand. It doesn't matter what happens to them, so I'm just going to keep them by. And now I'm going to call these 2. So I'll call Default here, and I will call Selgaon, say here, right? Now I trigger Default skill, I can pay 1 Soul Blast, and by doing so, I can now look at the top 5 cards of my deck and call another card. That's the same grade or less. Again, like I said, instantly take a look, you have 10, 10, 23 at minimum, and that's not even counting if, for example, you drew a second Selgaon, then you can threaten for even higher numbers of 10, 23, 23. This is all on turn 2, for 1 Counterblast. It's really problematic for some people, and that's why I like to show you the other end of the hypothetical. Let's say, for example, that you in fact wrote up into Blaster Blade and you now have 0 face-up cards in the damage zone. Let's just say that you don't actually have anyone to play, right? So your hand would now look like this. It would look exactly the way I showed you just now, the Defaults in hand, and Wisdom, right? Do you notice something? There is no way your opponent can actually play this hand. There is no way, because he's locked out of Wisdom, right? He can't pay the Counterblast. You gave him no Counterblast. He can't play the Default because there's no order that is played during the turn. And just like that, his whole hand is bricked. He cannot respond to you at all. He can't even do an early game. All he can do is just attack with his pathetic Vanguard, and then he does a drive check. Oh, Mr. Selgaon, what a surprise. And then he ends the turn. That's literally it. That is all he can do, right? And he's lost the game. He's lost so much tempo that all these order core cards he's been playing in his deck do not profit him at all in the early game. They're going to come out later on in the game. They're going to come out around turn 3, turn 4. And by then, it's just going to be another group of units that he calls during that same main phase alongside the rest of his main strategy. He's not going to get enough advantage to win the game. In fact, he's most probably lost the game by then. So, clearly, Counterblast Denial is the way to stop Order Core, especially if they're playing Wisdom at the beginning. You want to stop them with not giving them Counterblast for their turn 2. If they are playing, say, Warriors Rest, which I extremely doubt, Yeah, he can pay the Energy Blast 2, he plays the order, and he gives 2 units the 10k when boosted ability, but he doesn't get the drawback, right? Because the draw from Warrior's Rest is only when you have 5 or more units, and by then obviously he can't have triggered Default beforehand, which means he would never have actually reached the 5 or more condition, which also means that he's playing into a -2 to still continue this combo under Warrior's Rest, right? So that's why Wisdom of the Beginning, like I said, is one of the only orders that allows him to do that, and now he's completely locked out of it. As long as he cannot fulfill the full condition of Wisdom of the Beginning, which is the Counterblast 1, his Default is locked out. If he gets Cell Gown, he could use the Cell Gown, still it's an 8 or 13k booster, but for those of you who also play competitively, you do know Lianon is probably tier 1 or if not tier 0 deck right now, post-ban list. And you know what plant tokens do. They choke out Cell Gown, you've got absolutely no future. So that wraps up the weaknesses of Order Core, how to beat them. TLDR, just Counterblast deny them into the turn 2. After that, you can give them as much Counterblast, it won't matter. Now, the next question I'm pretty sure you're wondering is, how can I tell if my opponent is even playing this engine? I mean, yeah, it's, you know, it's 12 cards, it should be pretty obvious, but how exactly can I tell which of my opponents in the tournament are playing this set of cards? Well, first of all, and the most ironic answer, check their financial background, check their status, ask them how much taxes do you pay per month, do your parents still pay for you, how many jobs do you work, how much you earn, and generally speaking, they're not affluent, they most likely are not playing these cards. But the most serious answer is to look at their right deck, right? Why do I say that? So, Keter has a lot of decks because, you know, Blaster Blade is the first Vanguard deck ever. They've generally printed a lot of different right decks. So here I have the Youth right deck. Here I have Bastion's right deck. I'm even going to put out VIL's right deck. Here, the 1 and 2. And then they also have stuff like Tranquilia. So, judging by looking at these different kinds of right decks, you can start to tell that there are some differences. And of course, there's some others I'll bring up right after this. First of all, if their right line makes you flick cards in hand as a condition. So, for example, Bastion's right line, right? Chances are, this guy is obviously not going to be playing Order Core. It's going to be Bastion. He's got too many great trees in his life to worry about. He's got no time for this shit. So, he's definitely not going to be on Order Core. In examples like this, you will know that he's clearly not on it. The other telltale sign for decks that don't play Order Core are decks that have a Counterblast Vanguard on turn 1 or turn 2. What do I mean? So for Youthberg, while Youthberg could technically play the Order Core, he does need a Counterblast for his turn to Vanguard, even though it's a bit later, but he's still gonna need that Counterblast, right? That does mean that he's gonna want that Counterblast open when he uses that skill. So there's no way he's gonna willingly throw that away just by playing Wisdom at the beginning. It's not gonna happen, he's not gonna do that, so he's not gonna bother. Other examples of this would be stuff like, of course, my one and only, my eternal favorites, Blasters. For Blasters, as you know, whether you ride up to Blaster Blade or the eternally spooky Blasted Up, where is he? I just took him out. Where is he? Blasted Up. These guys will never, ever want to play Order Core in this society because, you know, if their Counterblast denied, not only do they now lose their right line skill, they're going to lose their entire Order Core. So, generally speaking, people that do play modern day Majesty Lord Blaster, first of all, why? You're losing. You're losing. Secondly, they just don't have the time and space to play Order Core because their Counterblast usage is way too precious. Not just for Majesty Lord, even decks that slot in Blaster Dark into their main right lines, you know, for example, certain decks like Bastion Accord, they won't have space for this, they won't be doing this, so keep that in mind. Now, that leaves us with a few decks that do regularly play Order Core, so I'm going to tell you how to spot them. Firstly, this guy. This is Tranquilia. This is the original Tranquilia from Alden's first right line. Tranquilia's effect is that when he's rolled upon, you reveal 3 cards with different grades, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, call one grade 1 among them, and then you shuffle the deck. Generally speaking, they are always looking for Cell Gown, and by doing the flip in your hand, this skill costs 0 Counterblast, okay? Keep that in mind. 0 Counterblast in the turn 2, which means they can use Wisdom at the beginning. Okay, so that's how you tell which decks can fit this core in, is if their turn 2 needs a counterblast or not, or if they want that counterblast open in the case of Youthberg. Okay, now, another example of a right line that loves to play auto core, but it's still debatable, is Leal, right? Because Leal's right line, as you can see here, it calls 0 counterblast, and I even paid 40 yen just to bring these comments home to show you. Yeah, they don't use counterblast at all, right? So in this case, using stuff like this is very easy. It's very effective, and in fact, they're rewarded if they manage to pull off stuff like that. Of course, I will be a complete hypocrite and a sham if I do not mention the great Blondezel. Blondezel, judging from his right line, yes, I pay a lot of money for these. As you can tell, it doesn't use counterblast, right? So it looks like Ezel can play auto core. And you know what? You wouldn't be wrong if you assumed Ezel plays the auto core. But because of the nature of Ezel, it's a very special case. Ezel on turn 3 always wants to play Reign Supreme King of Beasts, and Ezel's turn 3 is his turn 2. So because of that, he actually has a own better order to play, which will be Reign Supreme King of Beasts, and therefore Ezel is less likely to play this exact order core. Of course, Ezel being Ezel, and I will mention this in my next segment, deck building does go around the certain right line and how it affects. So technically in this case, yes, you can still play Default and you can still play Selgaon. In Ezel, it's not a concern. But as you can tell, in this case though, you can't really deny him because he's way up to grade 3, right? So you're losing more tempo in denying him because he's already hit grade 3. Whereas if you're fighting most other decks, like for example, as I mentioned before, Leal or Rezael is another key example. Yeah, he needs that counterblast 1 to use for his auto core, right? So by you denying him that, he basically loses a lot of tempo. And last but not least, now we move on to my final segment for this, is how does this affect deck building? So now you know which right lines can and cannot generally fit in an auto core, and you generally know now how to beat it and what it looks like. It's right in front of you. How does this impact deck building? It helps Keter decks whose right lines don't give them an early game that's good enough, or an early game that uses counterblast. You fit these 12 in, generally speaking, it helps a lot. The only problem is that by playing strictly by this package, you do leave some issues. First of all, if you draw this later into the game when you're further behind, you are gambling. Alright? It's a clear fact, you are gambling, you are just trying to draw 2, and if you draw 2 triggers, you automatically lose the game. 2, Default needs to see an order being played, which means if you only play for Wisdom at the beginning, there's a chance you see Default without Wisdom and Wisdom without Default, and you will be punished for it. So in that case, I do recommend, if you do want to play Default in your Keter Sanctuary decks, to actually carry an additional order with you. Default doesn't mind if you play a Regalis piece, so actually I would recommend carrying a Regalis piece if you want to play Default in your decks. I think that is something worth considering, so do keep that in mind. And of course, last but not least, Selgaon. Selgaon is honestly his own video for another day at this point. He's freaking broken, he's freaking insane for some decks, not all. If your deck can respam cards from the drop zone and has a grade 1 synergy, yeah, this guy is definitely for you. He will not let you down, he will scale in terms of card advantage really insanely. Like even base Rezael can get +2, +3 just from a simple main phase. He pluses more than Night Rose. Can you freaking believe that? And it's just insane that it's completely costless, right? So you can just get a free 13k booster that just pushes and pushes and pushes your offenses and your card advantage really freely, and there's no way to stop it. But if you are not playing a deck that has that synergy, then you will be only playing Selgaon in context of the other core. There's really no other reason to play Selgaon because he's literally just Painkiller but a little bit better, right? So if you can't use the inherent synergies of the orders, then you generally just will not use it. Okay, so that's gonna wrap up my little rant / explanatory video on order core. Honestly, I'm not upset at order core. I'm not upset at people being upset about the generic. I'm really not. I just think that this needs to be a video made because a lot of people are talking about it without actually knowing most of the facts, right? The fact is that you can counter this. if you just CB deny them moving into turn 2, most of the deck collapses due to lack of tempo. It's a clear fact. You can try it yourself if you don't believe me. You generally will win more if you just don't attack into his Vanguard and give him the counterblast for Wisdom in the beginning. And I showed you through that demo hand, it's completely possible to lock them out, and you should know this. I've also today taught you which kind of decks will play Auto Core, so in the future, while you're playing your early games, especially your early games, your tournaments, you can actually think about these facts and remember, especially if you want to CB deny them, because you are aware of this package that exists. Of course, if he's playing stuff like, like I said, this shit, you can just rush him to hell and kill him because he poses no threat. Look at him. So yeah, that's really about it. I don't think these guys need to be banned. I don't think so, but I just want to talk about it because I know the conversation regarding Keter generics just keeps going on, and very frankly, it's pissing me off. I can't do a single Keter deck profile in peace without someone messaging me saying, "Hey, have you considered XYZ generic?" I'm like, yeah. It's so upsetting. It really is. So I just wanted to cover it, to get this out of my system, just so that everyone knows. Because when I did that Shoujo Doji video, I didn't know how many of you guys didn't know about like CB deny Isazao, or that Isazao was the problem. And I was right? He was hit on the ban list. Even Furai was hit, thank you Jesus. But yeah, that's really why I decided to continue doing this explanatory style video, to really talk about the little different problems that Vanguard has in standard. Yeah, that's really about it. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you like this style of explanatory videos and you want me to talk about another topic, or if there's something on your mind you want to discuss, or if you're not happy about the points I raised in this video, then just head on down to the comment section below and have a chat with me. I respond to most comments, I think, unless you're being outrageously rude, and then I'll just ignore you. But yeah, that's about it. Oh, and also mcrafter3000, if you're watching this video is made for you, so you can fight me in the comments. I will fight you for a money match. You don't think I won't. But yeah, that's really about it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Yeah, I think now that I'm just doing the video, I might as well also just say my next few videos are going to be a bit more delayed as well, because there is a problem with me getting my 05 cards, my DivineZ DBT08. There are already a few videos that I've done the list and done the testing, so I am pretty excited to show them to you, but they may be a bit staggered in terms of the release dates, so I do ask you for your patience. Although I do plan to finish most of them by, say, end October, November, in time for the Korokoro set, and then maybe I'll do some Lyrical, and then maybe I'll look at 06, because Chronos Command, baby! Chronos Command is coming! Let's go! So, yeah, I have to do another Chronojet video. Goodbye.